Star Wars Vision Volume 2, which sees the return of the concept series that sees the different studios take a stab at producing animated stories set within the Star Wars universe, but not necessarily based on the Skywalkers or Central Jedi's of plots that we're used to. And it was Star Wars' main offering for May 4th, with so much other big announcements already in the can, so a lot was riding on its success. Volume 1 was critically acclaimed as it had a largely Japanese anime focus that surprisingly went really well with Star Wars. The two genres went hand in hand. In Volume 2, they attempt to further broaden their horizons with a more international flavor, seeing studios both big and small from around the world. They gave the creators of Wallace and Gromit, Aardman, a stab at a Star Wars, for example, giving us their takes on the franchise. We see stories with a French, Indian, Spanish, South African, and even Irish lens. What this season does offer in diversity of creators, cultures, and animation style, it is slightly behind season 1 in terms of diversity of story. We have, for example, 2 Kyber mining stories back to back. There's also constant themes of hidden powers, be it Sith, Jedi's on the run, or hidden from us, the audience. So there's a lot of similarities with the stories, and I think there could have been a little bit more coordination going on. Season 1 gave us, for example, a band trying to make it under Imperial reign. You've got a Force-sensitive droid and an epic brother-sister rivalry. It swung more, and therefore it also missed more, but as you can see, the hits actually stayed with me. I'm remembering all of those short episodes just off the top of my head. Volume 2 was much more unique and vibed in story, where it tended to stick to largely traditional Star Wars tales that you find in other animated stories like Clone Wars, Rebels, or Bad Batch. And look, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's essentially telling us the kind of stories we love in a way that we haven't experienced them before, which is what Visions is marketing as the unique selling point of the series. There are some incredible guest stars too, from Star Wars first-timers like Angelica Houston or Daniel Day Kim, who, by the way, Jin from Lost, amazing flex, to really cool cameos from known names playing their beloved characters. Like you have Dennis Lawson as the legendary Republic pilot Wedge, or Star Wars legendary voice actors taking on new roles such as Steve Blum, best known as Zeb Orrelios, who last saw in The Mandalorian Season 3, playing an evil commander. With the longest episode of 20 minutes, these all zip by, and there's not one episode that I consider in any way bad, with some really high highlights. The series comes out of the blocks on fire, with the Sith from Spanish studio El Guiri using the animation style as a plot point as we follow a reforming Sith and her droid E2 as they hide out from their previous master. It literally looks like a blank page being filled in with black, white, red, or orange, reflecting the internal dark and light struggle of our central character. Irish studio Cartoon Saloon Screechers Reach, directed by Paul Young, opens a bit like an old 2D game like Space Invaders, so looks completely different. But despite the animation being much simpler, the story is definitely not. This almost weaponizes the Central family's Irishness, making them seem kind of likable and twee, when the story is actually subversive about one child becoming tired of the mundanity of their life together and seduced by the darkness of the Sith. It gets really dark really fast, but you don't see it coming because it's all sure like, sure, kick them up the arse. It is really good. Punk Robot adapted 3D, almost claymation style for episode 3 in the Stars, which is a beautiful and uplifting story of 2 sisters who are the last survivors of their planet's failed rebellion against the Empire. It's similarly dark, but a much needed, more positive turn after the previous episode. The series' 5th episode, Journey to the Dark Head, goes back to Volume 1's wheelhouse of a more traditional anime story, seeing Jedi Toll wrestle with his Anakin-like dark side temptations as he goes up against Sith Lord Bishen, who's played by Day Kin, as we spoke about earlier, on behalf of Mechanic Ara, who requests the Jedi Council help her destroy the Dark Head statues. This was beautiful both to look at and to experience and to feel, with an epic lightsaber battle utilizing the power of the red versus blue in a way that would make Kylo and Rey jealous. The script is also really powerful. Lines like, light and dark will always coexist, the next wave will have as much hope as despair, just casually thrown away for sport. Journey to the Dark Head is probably the series highlight for me. It was absolutely excellent. Speaking of epic lightsaber battles though, there's another can't miss one in episode 7, The Bands of Golak by 88 Pictures, where it gives Star Wars an Indian infusion that actually makes a great unexpected match. Though the animation is a similar style to what we were accustomed to seeing in the likes of Bad Batch and Rebels. It looks phenomenal with incredibly detailed character illustrations and a kaleidoscopic color palette, bringing this tale of a Force-sensitive young girl on the run with her brother from Inquisitors to life. There's also fun frolics to break up the heavier subject matters, like you have I Am Your Mother, which is the aforementioned efforts by the Wallace and Gromit creators Aardman. And when I was writing notes for the episode, the first thing I wrote down is Wallace and Gromit ? Before knowing it was the actual studio, so it was no surprise. That's about a pod racer and embarrassing mother, as well as the series ender O's Song by Triggerfish, which is about a young girl with a new Force ability to purify poison kyber crystals through her voice. All in all, if you're a Star Wars fan, you need to be all over Visions. This is absolutely going to be a backdoor pilot for the next mega project, but also gives you a fresh spin on the galaxy far, far away that us Uber fans are often crying out for. It's really, really good, and it flies by as well. Like I said, 9 episodes, longest episode is 20 minutes. Excellent stuff. Star Wars Visions Volume 2 is on Disney Plus now.